Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to the Blokes podcast. Ryan Hassan from the Centre for here, joined as always by Nick, the Sultan of Steel / the Miracle of McRae Sutherland. Nick, I'm outnumbered today. I feel like I should have my brother on so we can even up the odds because we've got a guest and he's a Sutherland as well, mate. What's going on?
Yep, the ex-CEO of Cricket Australia, now the CEO of Golf Australia, I think. James Sutherland is in the house. So, James, thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule.
Thanks so much for having me.
You look quite young for what you've achieved in the sporting sort of corporate world. I actually had a guy the other day at golf. What was he saying? I said, "Oh, yeah, his name is James." He said, "Oh, my brother's name is James." And the method goes, "Oh, is it James Sutherland from Cricket Australia?" I was like, "No, it's not." But
that used to be the question a lot.
Yeah, so there can be more than one.
Yeah. So it is my actual brother that's on the podcast. And yes, we're ganging up on you today, but you've run off to Bali. What are you doing in Bali?
What does one do in Bali? Just get a bit of sunshine, hang out a little
sojourn.
bit. Yeah, we're having a Centre for Healing. We're having a bit of a conference, a bit of an event next week. So we've got a few students from around the world meeting up in a pyramid to sit down and talk about
pyramid
healing.
Scheme.
No, yeah. I'll get them all together and then just pull out my fucking skin, moisturizer or a supplement or something. I've been an MLM, so I know it very, very well.
Where's Myndfit to be a guest speaker at the Centre for Healing conference?
You want to come over?
Yeah, fly me over.
Fly me over. Oh, fly me over. Okay. Yeah, really casual there. Yeah, where's the invite? Fly me over, all expenses paid. Put me up in a fucking penthouse.
Yeah, I won't charge you for it.
Okay. Oh, thanks.
Do it as a favour.
Oh, God, I'm basically making money then, essentially.
Totally making money. So are you eating and praying and loving, or are you just
we're in Uluwatu at the minute, heading to Udbud. That's where the event is. Uluwatu is like a bit of a surfing kind of town. Mm-hmm. And I'm not really into surfing, but Tommy had a lesson, my 5-year-old yesterday. He loved it. He had like a 2-hour lesson this dude took him out for. And I told him, I'm like, mate, I've never done it, but it seems like really hard. So, because he can get, like me, gets frustrated if he's not awesome at something immediately. You would know, James, you have kids. And anyway, Melissa sends me a video. He's fucking standing up, riding a wave all the way to the shore. So he's booked in. I'm taking him after the podcast for another lesson this morning.
That's so the kids are going to be really good at that stuff, though. Like, the best age to take a kid snowboarding or something like that is really young because they're so agile. They catch on really quickly. I've heard that people say that heaps about snowboarding, and I imagine that translates to
very similar, right?
Because they're so low to the ground and their body, like their balance is quite good. They pick it up really quickly, quicker than adults do.
It's interesting you say that because you have a think about the Olympics at the moment and the young kids that are winning all the X Games gold, Olympic gold, and everything, like 12, 13-year-olds, they're dominating. They don't have the big power and can do the big spins and everything, but they're little shredders. So makes sense.
And you would know, James, you're a school teacher, mate. What age are you teaching at the minute?
8-year-olds, mostly, 8, 9, grade 3. So, yeah, around that 8, 9 range.
Yeah, so you connect pretty well with them because emotionally you're about 8, so it's that really nice little.
I act like I'm 8, which is surprising.
You can't help it. Any chance to throw your brother under the bus, you're going to take it. It just comes effortlessly and easily.
I roll into that. I'm happy to be 8. I act like a kid, and I think
it's wonderful. It's a compliment.
Being able to be a good teacher is, there's a preconceived idea that teachers have to be this high professional type of person, and I think I like to think that I'm bucking that trend. Not to say that I'm not professional, but I think there's a level of relatability that you can bring into a classroom that builds connection with kids.
It's just
I think that's
sorry, Jim. It's just dawned on me though. It's what we do with people. We're working with vulnerable people as therapists and practitioners and whatnot. And the kids you'll come into contact with are pretty vulnerable, very vulnerable. It's all new to them, and it's all what's going on. And a key in what we're doing is building rapport. And the typical therapist model is very professional and very cold and clinical, and I'm over here, you're over there. And I'm bucking that trend as well, I think. And so to hear you speak of that and what you're doing with the kids, it just makes perfect sense, building that rapport with them. I think you're going to get much better results.
Yeah. I think, I don't know. I think, most people when they go into university, and not anything against them, but the highest achievers were people who, they were that real academic, and a lot of those people I don't think would have survived within a classroom. Although they would have done really well at university, I think that when you get into the profession of teaching, you realize that it is very people-based. And if you're not good at building relationships and you can't, foster that, the workload that teachers are put under, it becomes a lot very quickly. And if you're not able to make connections with those kids, you're going to struggle, and you're going to struggle pretty quickly. So it's interesting. I always think about, what did I learn at university? Not much, really. And I'm not sure if they've fixed that yet. But you learn a lot by going into classrooms and doing prac. What you learn in your courses at university isn't, I don't know. I don't think it's a great deal. But
Ryan and I are considered lived experience practitioners, and we haven't gone down sat in a classroom for 6 years and got PhDs and doctorates and blah, blah, blah. And I think you've probably got that lived experience teacher bit about you. But what you're speaking of, really interesting. There's a rule of thumb: the higher the IQ, the lower the EQ in a person. That's just this, so engineers and all the brainiacs can build things and do amazing things, but they struggle in their interpersonal relationships. So what you're speaking of is bringing more emotional intelligence into the classroom. And I think that's just a no-brainer. I think it's awesome that you're doing that.
Yeah, and I've got my own kids, so I feel like I know what most kids need, and most kids need someone to smile at them and to come into the classroom and feel like that person's my friend. And if you had to use that word, I think once upon a time, the kids are my friends. If you said that at university, you'd probably be told off and someone to tell you to get fired or something. You're not meant to make quote unquote friends with the kids, but you do build a friendship with them. You are their second or third parent essentially for a year. You see them as much, or if not a little bit less, than their parents. And so, whether you like it or not, that's the relationship that you have with them. And you've got to be able to do that well, obviously professionally, but yeah, I think, there's ways that you can do it and make it fun and not so, so rigid.
Oh, absolutely. Just thinking back, the teachers that I really connected with, and they stood out like sore thumbs at a public school in Muralbach, were the ones that actually felt more like a friend, or felt like they, got down and into it with you, whatever you were learning. Like, they obviously were this person that were older and had all this knowledge that they were imparting and whatnot, but they actually got down and dirty, whether it was sport or maths or science or whatever it was. They'd get in there with you and do things with you. Whereas 90% of the teachers that I had, it was like this adversarial relationship between authority figure and child or student, and very little learning, I think, happened in that space. And I'm noticing that changing a lot these days, not completely, but even the place that we've got my son in at the minute, all the teachers are like first name. There's no like Mr. and Mrs. and this authority thing, and it seems a lot more better for a learning experience.
Yeah, I think so. A lot of people do drop that now. I work at a grade school. You can be called whatever you want. So I'm Mr. S, but it's not because, I want to be professional. It's just easy to say. I really don't care what the kids call me though. And some teachers are first name, some are last name. The principal, she just goes as Shelley. She doesn't go as miss anything. So I think there is a slight changing in some of those types of things.
Mr. S is a cool one, isn't it? I like that.
Mr. S.
The cool teacher.
Have a think about it's just coming to me now how many successful people speak about those formative years, and there's a common link. There's always a teacher that supported them, that believed in them, that nurtured or nourished or created a safe space for them no matter what was going on at home. And teachers, just are so undervalued. I think the role a teacher plays is pivotal in a child's development, obviously, but not just on an IQ level, on the EQ level as well. And so many sports stars or famous people, or whatever, are like, I had this teacher, and I've seen some videos, like a soccer player in England, and they brought his old teacher in, and he got really emotional. He's like, "You saved me. I wouldn't be here without you." So, power to the teachers.
Yeah, and I think what you said there, if you live on social media a little bit as a teacher, you would know that teachers are undervalued at the moment and underappreciated. And not most people, sorry, but a lot of people are like, you do nothing. Basically, teachers are a waste of time now. They're all whingers. That's the main one. You're all a bunch of whingers.
Really?
All you do is complain about how bad your work hours are, and you get all these holidays. And, I always, with anything, just tried to lead with empathy, or understanding. I don't say that my job is harder than anybody else's, but the conditions that teachers are put under in some circumstances are very challenging. And although we get, I'm on 2 weeks holidays at the moment, that's amazing. Like, it's a blessing, but I feel like I earn that holiday. It's not given to me. I work a lot of outside hours, and I do a lot of admin that people don't understand that teachers do. And so, I just think it's, without, a lot of people lead into judgment first. And I think it's good to step back and kind of go, well, have I done that job, and do I know what they have to do? Or,
it's very easy. We talk about it all the time on the podcast, mate. It's very typical for people to judge and criticize and condemn from a place of ignorance. And I think what you're doing with your social media, trying to create positivity and meet people with that empathy and compassion, which is very emotionally healthy, is really important. And you did blow up on social media for a bit there. What are you up to, 50,000 followers or something now?
60 now. I've had a good week. I had about 8,000. I've had about 8,000 new friends this week, which is amazing.
You'll have a whole bunch from Finland after this episode, for sure.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, our podcast is big in Finland. So
follow one guy. Where's he from? He's from Sweden or Finland. He's a young teacher as well, actually. I follow his page, and he's good. So maybe he'll catch this.
Probably a big fan of the Blokes podcast, I'd imagine.
All people are.
I sent Ryan some of your reels, just to sort of give him a heads up, because he loves doing his homework on guests. Loves to spend a couple of hours really getting to know the guest that's coming on. He asked me before this guest, so this is your brother? I'm like, yeah. But he's like, his last name's Sutherland. And I'm like, that's typically how it goes, mate. You've really done your homework.
You just got to clarify these things sometimes, I didn't want it lingering in the back of my head,
It's amazing the world that we live in. Teachers, nurses, ambulance, all these crucial sort of roles that people play in society, in terms of reward for effort, are quite low. And then you got the doctors and the lawyers and the this and that up here, and the CEOs and everything. It's such a topsy-turvy world, but hopefully it can change a little bit.
Well, it's hilarious. It's like the importance of a teacher, and even, like you said, ambulance and police, like all around where I live in Frankston at the minute, every ambulance vehicle and every cop car has the writing on it, like just saying how they're underpaid and whatnot. Yet I can go and, become a cosmetic surgeon, do fake tits and lips and make about $300K a year easy. And it just is a strange kind of world that we live in. Like, how important is the role of a teacher? We're literally fostering the emotional health and the intelligence of the future generations of this country. I couldn't think they're undervalued more.
Well, we're telling people what's important. We're showing the kids what's important. It's being a pop star or being cosmetic surgeon. Would you give yourself some tits and lips, or?
Well, what would I do? I don't know. Maybe bleach the sphincter, something like
that. we try and balance the. I don't know if you probably haven't even listened to any episodes, Jimmy, but we try and sort of balance it between a little bit serious and a little bit light. So,
so James, back to the social media. What are you trying to get across with the social media, mate? Because a couple of those reels are still at like 1 million views, So I think whenever
6 million one of them,
6 million, the 6 million view man. Whenever we start to spread a message and get views like that, like what are you? Because when you start to reach those kind of numbers, you can start to think, what message am I trying to spread into the world? So what is that from your point of view?
It changes over time. I think I spent a long time in my life worrying about, I think, what other people thought of me. And I probably have always been a little bit different. I'm quite shy and introverted, but not everybody sees that or knows that. And as I got to a point in my life where I was like, I really don't give a shit what anybody thinks about me. If I used to play footy with people and, I used to be this high energy person who drank a lot of alcohol and was the life of the party. And I thought, what would people think making silly little videos at 33? When I started late last year, I was 33 years old. And I just got to a point where, I don't care what people think of me. So I started trying to make videos that other teachers would think are funny. So problems that teachers go through daily, because they are quite comical. And that basically has turned into, slowly evolving to show people, I suppose, my personality and what I'm all about. So I think that sometimes social media sells us something where, it tells us we need to be something that we're not. And I saw a guy, he's got like 1.2 million followers. I don't know if you've ever seen him. He's called Hub's Life. And he just videos his normal day-to-day life, basically, him just doing normal everyday stuff. And like I said, I think he's got 1.2 million followers. And that kind of sparked a bit of a new journey. And I thought, well, I'm as normal as somebody comes. And maybe people will find that relatable. And so I started to try and change what I was doing a little bit. So I moved away from just funny teacher videos to starting to try and put in, some videos that would hopefully connect with other people through just sharing things about myself. And those videos are some of the videos where I haven't gotten the most views on them, but I've gained the most followers. So where I just say things like, I go to bed at 9 o'clock. Or I wear old clothes. Like I don't value buying myself things. Like I'll wear a t-shirt that's 7 years old. Like I don't care. That doesn't mean anything to me. And just sharing those normal everyday things with other people and finding a way to try and do that so it connects with others. And just sharing an overall positive message. I don't spend any time wasting my energy on being sad or I move out of those feelings really quickly. And people have said to me, you can't always be happy. But I disagree with that a little bit. I spend most of my time in the happy to very happy range. And I think that's through, Nick and our dad passed away about 10 years ago. And that happened very suddenly. And from that day, I've been like, why am I going to waste time with those emotions when I know that, somebody could click and somebody could be dead. So I remember that all the time. And I do spend most of my time smiling and being positive and trying to cheer people on. And I'm like, well, why can't I do that through my page? So I am trying to do that more and more. And you could see that if you went back on my page, you could see it slowly starting to change. And now I'm just trying to find that balance of how can I, people say you've got to have one niche, you have to have a niche, and I disagree. I'm not going to have one niche. I'm not going to do that. I'm not just a teacher. I'm not just a positive face. I'm going to try and blend all those things, and that's what I'm trying to do. So that's a long.
How is it for a shy introvert to put himself out there and to make all these reels and to be vulnerable and offer to the world what you're doing?
I think
it would have had to take that step outside your comfort zone. Obviously.
Yeah, I probably thought about making the videos when I was like 30. And then me and another teacher friend, and we were kind of like, oh, no. And I thought, no, what if people start to see it? Blah, blah. And then I don't know. I just got to a point where I was like, why not? I used to, I always need something to do. I need like a hobby or something. And so I thought this is a free way. It doesn't cost me anything to make these videos. This is a free way that I can use my time, my free time. And it's obviously turned into much more than I ever thought it would be. I'm not even a year in yet, and to be just about to crack 60, I feel proud of myself. And I don't know where it's going or what it'll become. But hopefully, it's something that's not just good for me, but good for other people. And I'm constantly thinking about how I can continue to do that. I just want people to feel related to and feel like, what I'm going through today, there are other people like me, and that's okay. I'm hoping that, it can, with some shitty teacher humor, like you guys are talking about, weaving these lovely messages in with some ridiculous humor,
lowbrow toilet humor.
Yeah, and finding a way that I can do that well, because kids say a lot of funny shit, and I think that it's okay to share that, to find a way to share that. Like the things that happen in a classroom some days is ridiculous, and I don't know. I think it's funny to share that.
What are you going to start doing some merch and create a YouTube channel and monetize it a little bit and make a passive income off it? And
I've got a YouTube channel. I only started about a month ago, but
okay.
I've done a bit of research on YouTube's very difficult. I have this grand goal that I'm going to get to 100,000 on YouTube one day because I want the plaque. I don't know if you've seen it. With a plaque. I want that plaque. Yeah. I'm at 160, so I'm a long way away. But I'm also YouTube any thought. Like I'm just transferring what I'm making on for Instagram. I'm just transferring that across and basically slapping it there. And if I started to get some traction, I might give it some more detailed thought. But for now, it's a bit of an afterthought. Like I'm just putting them on there. I've had a few views.
Happen organically.
10,000 views on YouTube, which I'm like, awesome. But I'll just put them there and kind of see what happens. But I'd love to get that plaque one day. That'd be awesome. Don't know why I want. It's one of those silly things. I saw another person with one, and I was like, I want that. Like, why can't
I? Dare a dream.
Yeah.
What you were saying, just to go back a bit, sorry, the happiness and how often can we be happy? Something I teach clients at Myndfit is to have an emotional response that's in proportion to what we're experiencing. And we're obviously training them in that emotional intelligence. And a lot of people dwell at the unpleasant end of the emotional spectrum, the anger, guilt, depression, anxiety. But then when they get what they want, or they get that dopamine spike, then they get pleasure and they mistake it for happiness. Yeah. We're teaching them to hang out at the other end where you are, and to be inherently happy. Carry that happiness within yourself, and then when it's appropriate, have your moment of sadness or frustration or whatever. But then come home to that place. So was that happen organically, or I know you and I have both had our rock bottoms. Did you? Can we touch on that for a bit? And like, what was that for you? And did you get some help to come out of that, or was it just pretty natural for you to shift your mindset? Or
Yeah, I just wasn't making choices that were great for myself, and that probably heavily impacted my relationship with my dad, because I was doing something that was affecting him. And yeah, like you're saying, it was fueling something that I thought was giving me happiness, but it wasn't. And then one day that all came crashing down basically, and I was sitting at a rental house that I was with, and I just remember sitting there and thinking, like, I've got nobody, I've got no friends, I've burned every bridge that I can. And yeah, I suppose I can
how
still
old are you? How old are you at that stage?
in about 20-ish. I would have been, yeah, 19, 20, because yeah, somewhere in that age bracket. So I had to
Still young, like still underdeveloped.
yeah, had to move back in with mum. And our mum, but she can get involved in our lives very heavily, but she was very
What?
supportive and didn't leave my side. And that, although I probably didn't appreciate it that much at the time, it was what I needed. And then slowly but surely, rebuilding, lots of, I call it trial and error, lots of failures along the way, knowing, I needed to improve some things, often doing the opposite, but still knowing I need to improve. And that probably led up to Dad passing away, which, we were on good terms, but we weren't, they weren't as good as they could have been. And then when you lose that instantly, I think from that point on, I just had a new perspective that wasting time on what I think is wasting time on worrying about little problems that happen every single day, is pointless. And I have just made a conscious decision and trained myself to move past those things very quickly. And I just always say, it's kind of like, oh, well, like shit happens basically. Something else, when I zoom out, I always tell myself, zoom out and look at what you've got and think about how how abundant your life is, like how substantial is your life. And sometimes you get caught in those little moments when you actually take the time, like I envision myself up above like a bird's eye view, and you realize that you've got a roof over your head and you've got a job that can pay for your bills and your kids can go to school and they can drink clean water and all those things. I'm like, what do I have to complain about? Like, yeah, perspective and self-awareness.
Well, you've got the most beautiful kids and partner. Like you're so successful in so many areas in your life, and I love before when you said you're proud of yourself, but take the teacher and the social media and everything away. I think what you've achieved, and you're not coming in this sense of deficiency. You're not focusing on what don't I have or what didn't I do. You're very much focused on that living gratefully. And yeah, I mean, your family is just a direct reflection of what you've achieved. And how much did Amy sort of play into your evolution as well? Like come into contact, did you want to be a better person for her, or did you sort of meet each other and just grow organically together? Or
like meeting Amy definitely helped. Like probably Dad, and then Amy, and then having Sadie, they were probably three key points. Amy and I are a bit yin and yang, so she compliments me in different ways that I need it. She's very thoughtful towards family and things like that, and that's probably something that I haven't always had in my life. And she's always thinking about other people's birthdays and what people need, and she's always taking care of the kids and doing all the little things, like the lunches and the this and the that, and making sure that we're organized. And so having her has been amazing. And then I remember when Sadie was born, I played in a basketball tournament, and then we went to a wedding, and I don't know, I got really quite drunk for a couple of weekends close to each other. And I remember just waking up one day, and I'd been a bit of a dickhead to Amy at a wedding, and I couldn't remember anything because I used to drink until I blacked out. That's how I did. And I just woke up one day and remembered, like, I don't want to feel shit anymore, and I don't want to be a wanker, basically. And so
you have a choice in that.
Yeah, so I made a conscious decision not to do that, and that was, what would I have been then? I don't know, 28. So it's maybe been 8 years, and I don't know if I would have, maybe once or twice I've drank extremely heavily in those 8 years, but it was just something I stopped doing, basically. So I don't really drink alcohol anymore. It's not something that I overly enjoy. I'll have a drink with friends if I'm going on a golf trip or something, but I like waking up early, and I like spending times with my kids feeling good, and I like to be a positive presence. And I can still remember that wedding that we went to, and I kind of ruined the night for Amy, and it was her friend's wedding. And I still think about that, and that I was a piece of shit that day. And I'm like, well, I'm just not going to do that anymore.
Are you compassionate and empathetic towards that version of you, or are you still in judgment of him? Or
I think I'm more in compassion now than I had been. I think I saw a quote once, and it's like, how we treat ourselves in that moment when we make a mistake is one of the most important things that we have. And I think when I used to make a mistake, I treated myself really harshly. How could you do that again? You're an idiot, blah, 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 blah. And now I think, after moving through that, I see that, I was always trying, though. I was always trying to be a better person. And sometimes it takes a very long time. I used to get up when I was going to the gym when my first kid was born. I used to get up, I remember, and I'd watch motivational videos from like Denzel Washington or Arnold Schwarzenegger, or those people where they're talking about, having a good mindset and all those things. And I did that for like 2 years. And then eventually that stuff started to infiltrate my brain, basically. And some people might think like, oh God, that's a bit wanky, but I still remember those messages, like there's one Denzel Washington says, don't fear fear. And I was like, man, like I do fear a lot. Like, I didn't start making videos because I feared what other people would think of me. So then I thought about that quote that I'd heard all these years ago, and I'm like, well, fuck it. I'm going to do it. So I think, I just started to surround myself with better things.
It gets in there, doesn't it? And it can shift. I remember years ago, I used to listen to these Jim Rohn tape. Those CDs in the car. And I listened to it that many fucking times, but I haven't listened to it in years, but I'll always hear his voice in my head in certain situations. There's one, if I'm doing something and I'm like, fuck, this is just too hard, I hear his voice going, don't wish it was easier, wish you were better. And I'm like, fuck, okay, be better. And it rings, and that happens a lot. So it does get in there if you repeat it enough. I just want to touch on something. You go first, Nick, and then I've got a question.
I was just going to say, just to finish up on that bit, that's why I have such a philosophical approach at Myndfit. My old belief system was horrendous. It was just lots of ego and very destructive and everything. And then did my work and came out the other side and just, filled myself with those philosophies and right. They come to you in the moments that you need them. And, if something's going on, you're like, this too shall pass. And you're like, oh yeah, well, but then when you're all up in the bed, you're like, oh, this too shall pass. And you're like, oh, be grateful for this. Just, don't hang on to it, but enjoy it while it's here. So I think we are programmed by our environment. It's all nutrition for the mind, and you get to choose what quality of nutrition you're consuming mentally. So I think your social media is pretty high nutrition for people, and I think that they're going to hear James in their head one day, in the time when they'll need it. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
You touched on something earlier, James, when you were talking about sort of before starting the account and whatnot. And then you said that, you realize that you just don't care what other people think. right? And for people listening to this, 99, maybe closer to 100% of people will be going, man, how do I get there? Because the truth is, most people walk around in this life really caring about what other people think, making decisions for their life. Their thoughts are consumed by trying to make sure everyone likes them and all that kind of thing. Was that something for you that it just dawned on you one day? You had that realization? Was it a series of events, maybe something you've already spoken about, where eventually you just said, I've had enough of worrying about what other people think of me? What was your experience of that?
I think it was coming through, like I was talking about, listening to all those sorts of different things. And then, I think I don't know, I think over time, like in my 20s, I spent a lot of time trying to be the cool guy. And I never was the cool guy, but I wanted to be liked by other people. And as I got into my 30s and, you have kids and all of a sudden your house is a lot messier and your clothes aren't as nice. And, and I just started to look around and kind of think, who is actually looking at me and going, oh shit, he's got toothpaste on his shirt today. Or, like when I stop and think and I see other people in the street, like I'm not sitting there going, oh geez, look at that person who's got no shoes on. Like I got my own problems to deal with. And when I started to think, does anybody really take that much notice of you? Do people actually really judge you that much? Or are most people worried about their own shit? And when you think about that and you do it for yourself, like you are mostly worried about your own stuff. You don't really have that much time to sit there and judge other people. And so I started to think, well, if I'm thinking like that, maybe other people think like that. And then it just dawned on me that if somebody is thinking about, if someone is looking at my page going, oh, God, what a wanker, basically, like, how does that affect me? It doesn't. Like, it doesn't affect me at all.
But you got to be very secure within yourself. And I think, when we're young, we tend to have those insecurities. The ego is a bit, oh, I must be loved and liked, and I've got to put up this facade and present this facade to the world to then fit in or find my tribe or survive. That's what it's coming down to. It's all survival. But as you mature and you have more experience and come into deeper understandings like you have, it does create that deeper, integrity and being properly grounded within yourself and feeling that sense of security internally. And it really frees you and feels liberating. And it's a great space to get to. And yeah, you're right, Hass. There's probably a lot of people out there going, oh, what did he do? Hang on, I might pause that and rewind that bit now.
So many people are trying to get there. I saw this graphic years ago, like a cartoon, and there was all these people sort of walking around in a street. And there was one big thought bubble above all of them. And they were all thinking, what does everyone think of me? I must look so awkward. It's like exactly what you said, James. Everyone's worried about what people think of them, yet everyone else is simply doing the same thing. And people care so much less about us than we think they do. And I think it's a very freeing place to get to, because you always see, and some people never let go when they get older. They'll always worry what people think. You see a lot of people like in old people's homes, like the old guy who just gives zero fucks now. And it's like it's taken, unfortunately, until 70, 75, 80 years old to completely let go of what other people think and just be them. And, I always tell people and clients, it's like, well, what if we got there now when you're 25, 30, 35, 40, whatever it is? Wouldn't that be a better way to spend the rest of our life? And the reason why I think a lot of what you're putting out there, your content, is becoming popular is because it's authentic. It's not trying to impress anyone or do this or do that. It's just someone being very, very authentic with their experience. And on a deep level online, we all crave that at the minute, because there's 95% of what we see online is inauthentic. It's rubbish. It's not real life. And so that's why I think things are becoming popular for you.
And what people say about you says more about them than it says about you. So can you speak of, do you have notifications on your phone? Like, does your phone blow up, or do you just have to consciously go in there and check things? And what are the comments like? How do you deal with the haters and the judgy, unhealed people?
No, my notifications are on. Like, I try not. I get up at 4:30 most days, and I try and do all my content stuff before my kids and partner wake up. Obviously, that doesn't always work, but I'm very self-aware that becoming phone driven is an issue. And I don't want it to ever be like where Amy is sitting there and she's like, "Oh, he's on his phone again," like, and so I'm very self-aware. The notifications, I don't even look at them. I might check them a few times throughout the day. I do try and make it a point at the moment to respond to everybody who says something positive. That's challenging, but I think for me it builds connection. And I know that back when I started, if an account that had 60,000 followers responded to my comment, I'd be like, whoa, wow, like how cool is that? And so I'm very aware that that can happen to other people. So I do try and just, at least put an emoji, like a smiley face or a thumbs up or something to let them know that I appreciate their comment and them taking the time to say something kind. I get plenty of hate. I screenshotted some just the other day because I laugh at them. Once again, I lead in with empathy, and I think what's going wrong in that person's life today where they have to come to my page where I'm being positive and they have to try and shit on me and say, hey, you're a loser, basically. And it's like, well, what's going on for you today that's making you come to a place where I'm doing the opposite to that, but you still feel the need to leave that here. And I try and remember that. And I have been in a place where I like to have the last say, and I can never fight well with my hands. I get belted, but I can fight really well with my words, and I'm good with words. And I do often want to reply to people and be a bit of a smart ass, and kind of win the war of words because I don't agree with what they're saying. But I'm trying just not to waste my time on that. A lot of the time now, if it's a really negative comment, I'll probably just block them and delete it so other people don't have to read it. Or sometimes I deliberately write something really positive back to them. And then there's a beautiful thing with social media. We think it's so negative sometimes, but boy, oh boy, do people come to bat for you sometimes. Just recently, what did someone say? This guy tried to be a bit kind. I respect the positivity, but in reality, what you're saying isn't okay. We shouldn't celebrate being normal. You shouldn't tell people that you live paycheck to paycheck and that's a good thing. You normalizing normal is sending the world backwards. That's not too negative, but so many people wrote under it and were like, he's not glorifying it. He's just stating a fact that many people live through. And so sometimes when I just leave it there and let it sit, it's quite beautiful that people who I don't know come in and bat for me. And for every one negative comment, there's probably 90 to 100 that are really beautiful and that are lovely and that are nice to read. The other one I screenshotted, I said something about living an ordinary life, and they wrote, "That's miserable. I'd rather be extraordinary and live a non-ordinary life than live the same life as you. You're slowly wasting away."
Sounds like they're living a pretty extraordinary life if they have to stop and make that comment.
Well, your heart breaks for them, doesn't it? Wow.
Oh, no.
But so many
you feel so less than that you have to jump on and try and make yourself feel better than in an attempt to satisfy the ego.
It really is, though. Like, so many people jump in and are advocates for me, and they don't know me. But obviously, you get that through building connection with people and sharing stuff that is a little bit real and they can relate to. And people are happy to jump in and bat for you. So, yeah, I try not to be negative, and I try not to get in a war of words with people because I know that that's pointless. But more often than not, if you just leave it there, people start to chime in and go, well, why are you leaving that comment? And why are you doing this? And why are you doing that? And that person often disintegrates and they don't reappear. And it's just their comment and then a long list of other people being extremely kind and respectful. So
You're doing a great job of leaving your ego out, because ego will activate the ego. So the ego is turning up and leaving this comment, and it will be very easy for your ego to then get activated and get into a wrestling match with them verbally. So surrendering and just trusting the community to turn up and do its thing. It's really insightful.
Yeah, and like I said, when I know I can be good with words, I do. My first instinct is I'm going to slam this person, and then I kind of try and I probably did do that in the beginning, and now I try and stop and just think, what purpose am I getting from that? Like, I might feel good for a second and be like, I commented back something, and then we get in a back and forth, but like, that's a minute I could have gone and spent with my kids, or it's a minute I could have been with Amy, or like, why am I getting into this war of words and getting worked up over somebody? Once again, I don't know you. Like, I don't give a shit what you think about me. Like, if you don't like my content, see ya. I'll block you. You don't have to see it ever again. Like, and we won't cross paths, and that's cool.
Yeah, I used to get into some of those arguments earlier when we started the center, and I'd start those little comment threads. And even if back then I felt like I won, quote unquote, for people that are listening, I remember afterwards I'd just feel shit. I'm like, why do I do that? And after about 6 months or so of doing it, I just stopped any of that. I just knew that no matter what the outcome was, it wasn't going to be good for my mental and emotional health. In that respect, I was actually on the comments in Instagram. I was on. Saw on the other day, Cam Smith, the Rippers just won the Live Golf title, the Aussies, which, Nick, you got to get into it. It was awesome. They came from behind. It was great. But anyway, one of the main golfing pages on Instagram posted like, oh, Ripper win the Live Golf thing. And there was this whole slew of comments of people just giving Cam Smith shit. Just said, oh, yeah, take the money, no legs, you blah, blah, blah. And then Cam Smith jumped on his official account and just went, haha, these comments are great. Keep them coming, guys. And then that stopped all the negative comments, and all there was replies to him just going, good on you, Cam. You do you, mate, blah, blah, blah. Or it just sort of stopped it in its tracks. Where as opposed to being
resist will persist.
Exactly.
We have one of the other philosophies we use is we're all just walking each other home. That we borrowed from Ram Dass. And I think that's what you're doing when these haters turn up. We look at them as they're unhealed, or their egos in the driver's seat or whatever. We're not going to be destructive towards them because they don't need that. They need love and care. They're probably very insecure. They need reassurance that they're going to be okay. So, but we can't walk others home until we're walking ourselves home. And I think that's really what you've started off with, is being kind to yourself and treating yourself with care and compassion. Now I'm okay, and now I'm in a position to walk others home. And so when someone turns up, and some of these comments, as I said, we don't know. We've got to sit in that. I'm ignorant. I don't know what this guy's got going on or what's happening, but they could have had a few beers and just sort of had a fight with the missus and whatever, and then just projected their suffering onto you. They just came across you. So it's not actually personal. And if we jump on them and really kick them while they're down, then that says more about us than it says about them. So I think that meeting them and I think it's really important to stop and be very mindful of how am I engaging with this person right now, and what's the value.
Yeah, and I don't know. Like I've toyed with, I screenshot them because I think one day, do I make a video where without their name on it, but do I put them up and kind of talk about, hey, it really doesn't matter what these people say. Like we don't need to worry about it. I don't know if I'll ever do that, but some of them. There was one just then a guy wrote, good God, you look boring. And I wrote back and said, love the positivity, mate. Keep it up. And he wrote back, you have a dead life. I hope you wake up before it's too late. And it's like, so, I'm not going any further than that. But you
can't change someone's mind.
Yeah, it's like, I really don't care about that. Like that was just an instance of me where I'm feeling playful. So I write back and be the polar opposite, knowing that that'll probably piss them off, to combat their aggression with positivity. And him leaving that's the conversation done for me. I don't need to go any further. it is what it is.
But even that step, even creating the polar opposite, it's still falling to that trap of now you're trapped in the polarity with them. So it's you're actually giving them what they want, which is energy.
Steering, trying to move away from that, and if that's their opinion, then so be it. There's going to be people who don't like you in life, and especially when you open yourself up to being judged by millions of people, which is funny to say. But when millions of people have seen your face, some of them aren't going to like it, and that's okay. You don't need to like my face. I'm happy with what I'm doing, and I think creating the content has given me a purpose currently that I didn't know I could have, and it's giving me a chance to, I think, make a difference somehow, and that's really important to me. So that overrides, any silly little comment I get from a person that I don't know. Like, the amount of inboxes I get, and I try to read them, but a lot of them go into like a spam folder. But sometimes, if I get a free half an hour, I'll go through and read them. They're really beautiful. Like some people, you've aspired me to be a teacher, or you've really changed my day. I want to be more like you as a person. Like, it's so weird to hear people say that about me. And I try and say this in my content. I am really, as normal as a person can come. I don't have anything luxurious in my life, quote unquote. I don't own a yacht or a really nice car or anything, but I have a house that I can live in. I can pay my bills. I have kids that are healthy. My partner is healthy. I don't have anything to complain about. Like, outside of those things, if those pillars are there, if I always tell myself, if I wake up, it sounds horrible, but if I wake up and nobody has died, I'm going to have a great day. I have no reason to have a bad day. I know that doesn't work for everybody. And some people like that, you can't do that. But for me, I can, because of our experience with Dad, that I know you can wake up, somebody can be dead. That's what I wake up and tell myself. If I wake up, I look around, my partner's there in bed, my kids are in bed. I'm like, man, today's a great day. Like, I'm gonna be happy. And then I started.
A few comments isn't gonna unravel me. A few comments isn't gonna undo me.
No, that's okay. You want to come to my page and say that? Cool.
There's a tool we use called the 10-80-10 rule. So 10%, 80%, 10%. 10% of people are going to turn up and absolutely slander and slaughter you and just try and rip you all the way down as far as they can. 10% are going to say you inspire me and you're amazing and without you I wouldn't be a teacher and blah, blah, blah. And 80% are just going to enjoy it and just like it and, engage if and when they need to. So we want to focus on that 80%. We don't want to focus on the 10% that's trying to pull you down, or we don't want to focus on the 10% that's really grateful because they're self-sufficient. The 80% is where the focus needs to be, and just sort of trying to meet them. So, because without that, if you don't embrace all of it, hey, you're a weirdo sort of stuff, then that's going to unseat you pretty quickly. So having those parameters wide enough to accept the whole 100% of it and focus on the majority is just very helpful, I think.
Absolutely. I'll just go, we're coming up on time. I've just got one more question. This is more back to, I guess, your teaching experience, James, because it's just something that I'm obviously interested in. From your experience, working with
Mr.
kids.
S to you.
Yo, Mr. S, the cool teacher. Yo, Mr. S. I've got my hand up. In your experience, how do we create more emotionally intelligent, emotionally safe, emotionally aware children who then become, that in adults?
By, from an early age, telling them, supporting them and telling them that it's okay to to not know things and to embrace that a little bit more. You know, when I came through school and that it was you need to know, you need to know. When I was going to become a teacher, I wanted to quit the whole way through university because I feared not knowing things. And I see it every day in class. Kids are scared that they don't know the answer to things. So to combat that, we need to teach them that it's okay. It's okay not to know something. You don't need to know everything. You don't need to.
The whole point they're at school is because they don't know. They're literally there to learn. So,
yeah. Right. And we need to nurture that and foster that and make them feel like that's okay, because they don't think it's okay. You know, it's still a place where, you know, most of the kids in class don't put their hand up because they don't want to be judged by other people. And I suppose that's the journey that we're talking about, that we've gone on, some of us as adults, getting to that place where we don't fear that anymore. And that's what I try and teach to kids in the classroom. I don't care what you do or don't know, really. I don't care if you're the smartest. I don't care if you feel like, I don't like the word, but if you're the dumbest. I don't care what you feel. I'm going to help you understand that it's okay to be here. It's okay to get things wrong. That means we're learning. And that's what we're going to do in this classroom.
That's a growth mindset. What you're cultivating is a growth mindset.
That's what we talk about.
Saying, and it's like, and it's meeting them where they are and teaching in a way that they learn, not in a way that you teach. But the power of yes. Yeah, I saw that on one of your posts. That was great. I don't know this yet. But when we can encourage them, and there's this thing that we can do where someone's afraid of putting themselves out there, go and get as many no's as you can. Go and get as many rejections as you can. It's sort of a mental reframe. And so with the kids as well, imagine, all right, let's see who can get the most I don't knows today. And I think that sort of reframing it for them would help them to go, oh, okay, well now it's safe for us to say I don't know, and let's see how many of them we can get.
Yeah. I always talk about, you know, I think education or teaching is, you know, I think it's been always viewed as like mostly, you know, 90% education. Like, what are you learning? How smart are you? Blah, blah, blah. I would say, to me, it's 50-50, if not more, but it's about the person, the child. How can we help them feel safe and feel connected to and feel like, you know, their classroom is a home? And then that other 50%, the learning part, that's going to come with it. But if you don't build that connection, I don't know, I'd say, you know, 7 out of 10 kids aren't going to be able to learn the best that they can. And unfortunately, we're living in a world where more and more children are being diagnosed with, you know, ADHD or autism or things like that. And so the role of a teacher is becoming more and more difficult to grasp all these different types of learners. But
there's also a lot of overdiagnosis as well.
Yeah, so there is. But it's our job to combat all that, and to do the best job that we can. And I think that begins with creating a safe learning environment where students feel like they can be themselves. And that's the heart. That's the heart of teaching for me.
Their brain's not going to function if they're in survival mode. So they're not going to be able to compute and process and learn. So
something I put on my thing is, you know, no report dot, no comment will ever show the real significance that a teacher made. You know, just because maybe your child didn't move in mathematics, that doesn't mean that their emotional intelligence hasn't grown. But we don't track that stuff. So I think sometimes it's good to just think, you know, I always think about my own kids. Is my daughter happy? Does she enjoy going to school? And is she in the range? You know, if she's a little bit back or a little bit forward or just where she needs to be, amazing. But first and foremost, is she happy? Like, does she want to go? That's where I'm at as a parent, and that's where I'm at as a teacher. And not everybody feels the same, and that's okay. Some parents, you know, want their child to do really well and always be ahead, and that's okay. We've got different perspectives. But for me, it's, you know, is the child safe and happy? And then from there, we can go to other places.
That's awesome. Yeah. I mean, we're going to finish up, but one last thing is something I hear from adults. You're developing children. I guess I'm developing adults. We're working with teenagers now, which is great. But all the adults are saying, why aren't we learning this in school? Why isn't emotional intelligence being taught in school? And it sounds like, there are teachers coming into existence that are recognizing it and shifting the focus away from such an IQ bias to balancing it out to more 50-50 IQ and EQ. So awesome job with that. Hassan's got to go and have a surfing lesson. And 10, dude.
Is this what I do?
Yeah, that's it. James has got a hole in one as well. So let's
tell me about it. Up on that. Tell us about it. Because first of all, what's the handle of the account so people can follow you?
It's at life.of.gyms.
Life of Gyms with dots in there.
Yep.
Life of Gyms.
Put it in the show notes, Nick. Now tell us about the hole in one.
It wasn't an amazing shot. It was a long time ago, actually. But the good part about it was that the greenskeeper was on the green, and he had just changed the hole location, and I was the first person to tee off since he changed it. He was still standing on there, and she just rolled up and went straight in. It was beautiful.
What club?
It would have been a 7-iron back when I still can't hit it very far, but I reckon it was about 130-ish.
That's longer than Nick hits it. And so could you
didn't see that bus coming. Sorry.
Could you see it go in? Was it elevated tee or below? You could see it go in?
It was on the lower deck, and so I did see it roll in.
Lovely.
What was the celebration? Was it the club toss? Was it running mad?
Was it run to the what was it?
And I had my good mate with me who I'd been playing a lot of golf with, and he hadn't yet had one. So it was great. Just to have somebody there, that was good. So yeah, that's the pinnacle. And then
my other brothers also had a hole in one as well. I'm lagging.
You are lagging.
So am I. Okay, so that's something.
You what?
You would be quote unquote the best golfer going off golf scores regularly. So that's something.
Yeah, well, if all three of us were to play, I'd probably wipe the floor with both of you, but it's not all there really.
Yesterday, and I couldn't hit the ball off the ground, so
that's going to be a challenge.
Oh,
yeah. But the last time I played, I beat our other player, and I had a 79, which is my lowest score ever. So I'm ahead on that still, but I should have practiced between 6 months.
He's living in Canada. Matt's living in Canada, and he's getting fitted, and he's playing like weekly, and he's really like, you put a bean, is what you beating him. It's lit a fire that I don't think anyone can put out.
I beat him 3 times, and then he went with you, and you beat him. So I think he went home feeling very sad.
Quite competitive. Which is great. So, mate, thanks for coming on. It's been awesome. We don't spend a lot of time together. You're in Ballarat and I'm down here and that, but I'm heading up there in a couple of weeks. So, it'd be nice to catch up and, as I said, spend time with your beautiful family. Mum wants to come on the podcast as well, so we could end up. Hey,
you're going to tell her I was on it?
I'll tell her you're on first. Yeah, she did something for me. We touched quickly on Mum, but she wrote me a letter once when I was not great, and what you said, she gets involved in our life, and you don't appreciate it at the time, but it is so important for that parents to have that presence, whether you like it or not. So shout out to all the parents out there. Shout out to the teachers in Finland, and let's go and get a hole in one.
Yes, hole in one club.
Right.